Welcome to another Seidokan Saturday. Today I want to talk about stances. Stances are often very misunderstood in karate as static postures that you place yourself in and you're locked. Stances are not intended to be static, locked in place. An analogy I typically use is golf. In golf, we want to address the ball in a stance. Our feet shoulder width-ish, more or less. Hips are pressed back, knees are bent. We're in an athletic position. It would be silly to try and swing a golf club without having some sort of foundation from which to operate. Wrestling gets into a stance. Basketball, we get into a defensive stance. When we shoot, we want to line our feet up before we jump. Our feet are in a position. If I shoot a free throw, where I place my feet is very important. Everything has a stance, but we don't lock ourselves and stay there. Sometimes we're moving through that stance into a technique. Sometimes we're finishing up in that stance. Sometimes we are starting in that stance. So it can be the start, middle, or end of a movement. Again, going back to golf, my start stance, my intermediate stance, where my hips rotate and the knee turns, depending on your teacher, how much or if at all. Then my finish, and I've transferred the weight forward, is a completely different stance. So in karate, we have these positions of our feet and legs, stances. Typically, we have the stance in which we bow, feet are slightly out. The salutation stance, where our feet are parallel, heisokudachi, from which we do our Seidokan salute. We step into a yoi, or heikodachi, parallel foot stance. Some go wider, some narrower, some lower. A little wider than yoi, double wide from yoi, is the kibadachi, or horse stance. In this position, my feet are parallel, my knees pressed out, known as mabu in Shaolin. Shaolin will be way down low. We don't typically go as low in karate, some lazy straight legged. But the essence is that my knees are pressed out as if riding a horse, my feet are parallel. How low I go is individual to the style, teacher, etc. Horse stance. From horse stance, then we also have front stance. Again, I'm at that shoulder width parallel. My knee is pressed forward from the side this way. My knee is pressed forward to the front foot. Again, in Shaolin, it would be way forward and low as we step through. We have cat stance, neko ashidachi, where my hips are pulled back. And the square stance, or shikodachi, are facing straight forward. My feet are at 90-degree angles, defining a shiko, 4 directions, a box. From shiko, where my weight, if I'm going this way, my weight is centered. I can shift my weight forward, and now I'm in zenkutsu, or forward pressing stance. If attacked, I can move back, shift my belt, and again, you'll notice belt over center, belt pressed forward, belt pulled back. So that's defining the center of my gravity into neko ashidachi, up into tsurudashi, or crane stance for kicking techniques. We also have other preparatory stances, such as kosadachi. This can be used for advancing, if I wanted to cross over, say, and throw a side kick, or it can be used as a prep. You'll see this in judo, coming into your throws, ippon seonage, uchimata, so forth. So stance places our body into a position either before, during, or after a technique to optimize our power and our position relative to our opponent for neutrality, offense, defense, kick preparation, throw preparation, advancing preparation for a kick. That's the purpose of stance, okay? So don't think of them as static. We'll get more into the specifics of each stance as they apply to our techniques and kata and so on in future videos, but that's the basics, to understand that we have to learn to stand before we learn to walk and eventually run. We can't apply proper footwork in movement until we understand what position we want our body to start and finish in or transition through. So, stances are not static. They're utilitarian to teach body weight distribution and position relative to an opponent. Practice them, work hard. We'll see you on the next Seidokan Saturday. Keep practicing.